Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and this week I'm delighted to be joined by Eddie Clarke. Eddie Clarke, welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. Must be 4 or 5 years since you've been on this show.
I think it was 4 years ago.
Yeah, Stirling.
The memories come up, Stirling on Facebook. That's
Brilliant.
right. Great to see you.
It is, it's brilliant. You're looking so well, and I keep saying to people, they often come to me and suggest, oh, you should get this person on Acsom. And I said, oh, they've been on. It's just, we've got this massive archive way back in the day, and it was audio only. Beautiful wee venue at the toll booth. And you came in at that point because there was a massive campaign for somebody who was a local hero to you, Bobby Lennox, and we'll get back to that as well. In the week that John Clarke passes as well, Eddie, how sad is that?
Really sad, you know. I got a photo sent to me yesterday, you know, and it kind of light shining on Bobby Lennox, Willie Wallace, and Jim Craig, you know, and it's something that's been all my life, you know. It's been spoke about all my life, and that's like the heroes that we looked up to, you know, and they're sadly fading away. I really sad about that.
I saw that image actually. That's the team group, and I tell the story, Eddie, that I went to school in Fife to start with, and then because my dad was a pitman, after the miners' strike, we ended up moving to Midlothian, and you're swapping schools, and you're walking into the school, you're looking for that Celtic fan. It's like being at a wedding, right?
Yeah.
Or on holiday, you're looking for a fellow Celtic fan to hook in with, and there was a guy, and I'll never forget him, Kevin Causer, his name was. He'll be out there someplace, hopefully watching this, and he was like, oh, you Celtic fan? I am Celtic fan. Right, name the Lisbon Lions, right? Yeah. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, you know, Jinky, didn't know. Yeah. So he goes, you're not a Celtic fan until you can name the Lions. And I went home, got the old one of the books out, the history books, and I memorised that starting 11. Went back to the school the following day. I was like, right, Simpson, Craig, Gennell, Murray, McNeil, Clark, Johnson, Wallace, Chalmers, Alden, Lennox. And like you say, they're omnipresent in your life. And then with each passing year, and I'm getting that wee bit older, and I'm passing away, and you think to yourself, yeah, they are immortal in our minds and in our hearts. But these men, what they achieved for Celtic, you know, it's unparalleled. But what I love about your story is your dad was in and about Celtic at that time. I mean, these guys were his colleagues, weren't they, back in the day?
When I was driving in there, I was at work this morning, and I had to get away from work early, and I was phoning my dad on the way in, and 90% were chatting Celtic and football or whatever and stuff, and obviously we were speaking about John Clarke passing away yesterday. And my dad always gives me a wee kind of backgrounds on the players then, and I think that's something I've always been used to, you know, and other people would probably look in and say, that's amazing to know that and stuff like that, you know. And he spoke really highly of John Clarke, and we were speaking about Wispy Wallace, Willie Wallace, and when I was a baby, we had a dog and it was called Wispy as well, you know, and there was just all these things that's Celtic orientated, it's through all your life and stuff. But my dad and Lou McCarry went to St Michael's Academy down in Corinnan, and they signed with Celtic in the same day, so it's massive, isn't it? It's massive to us, you know, as much as my dad didn't get into the first team or whatever, but to be in that squad, you know, my favourite Celtic photo is the full squad with the 5 trophies, and my dad's there at the front, you know. I check it almost daily, you know.
That's something to be proud of, by the way, Eddie. I mean, for anyone who doesn't know, your dad was Jim Clarke, and I became aware of Jim before I spoke to him, before I knew his name, because he was in this image, and it was a young Celtic team. And at the time, I wasn't even sure where the picture was taken. I knew it was somewhere on foreign soil. It turns out it was in Italy.
It was Italy,
68. And I remember looking at this image, and I'd seen it maybe printed in the Celtic View a few times. And then there was this section of the View. I read the View cover to cover every week. And there was a section, and it was Jim Craig was kind of doing like historical stuff and wee quizzes and all this stuff. And he printed the image. And he says, right, how many of these guys can you name? And I was looking at it going, it was the Simpson Craig Gemmell thing again. I was like, I'm not a Celtic fan, I can't name these guys. And the following week he prints them, he prints the names. And then you start to become aware of the guys who played with Lou McCarry and Kenny Dalglish, George Conley, Davy Hay, Danny McGrain, collectively known as the Quality Street Kids. And I studied that team and studied it to the point where I wanted to speak to everybody in that image. How do you get a hold of them though? This is a big question. I know nothing about Jim Clarke, I know nothing about Eddie McKellar and some of these other guys. But as it so happens, football people are football people, and somebody knows somebody, and they'll pass you a number. And I remember probably just phoning your dad out the blue. You know what? I think it was a house number as well.
I remember it.
Landline.
It was a landline.
It was a landline, and
Yeah.
just sitting there talking to your old fella, and it was the humility of these players as well, though, Eddie, because if they were born in any other era, they'd have been star players, but their level and the quality of the Quality Street kids, well named, was so high that a lot of them didn't make it. But I think I felt a bit sorry for your old man, because a big part of that was a broken leg, wasn't it?
He broke his leg with Celtic. I'm not sure what game it was in a reserve match, yeah. And I was looking the other day, and I've got a kind of photo, and Billy McNeil's at one side, and Bobby Murdoch, my dad, sitting there with a broken leg. And sometimes that can be the difference in your career. I'm not saying my dad would have went on because of the quality it was there at the time, but sometimes that can be the setback and the difference in people's career. But certainly, if you look at the squad at that time, you would take the reserve team and put it on the pitch just now, wouldn't you? And my dad had his own wee kind of career. He went down south to Cambridge, Kilmarnock, Morton and stuff. And played football until he was well into his 50s.
That's brilliant, eh?
Aye.
I'm sitting here at 47 thinking, how do you do that? Honestly, I bet I'll drop that pen, because I'll pull a muscle try to pick it up, So that's brilliant. And the other thing I was going to say there about the Quality Street gang, you could take the team and put them in the league, and Jock tried to do that.
Aye.
Jock's team tried to put the second team into the pyramid. What a forward-thinking visionary that man was. And Rangers supported it, the notion, and it came to a vote, and Rangers voted that it should happen, and the team that had the deciding vote and said no was Partick Thistle.
Okay.
Partick Thistle voted against it. So Jockstein's idea was get all these guys into the league system. They can't get promoted. There was only 2 leagues.
Yeah.
Can't get promoted into the top division, but they'll play teams like Alloa and all these other sides. And he started sending them out to play friendlies. Your dad would have been involved in these games, to show the league that if Celtic are playing, if there's a team playing in green and white hoops, the crowd will come out. And they were packing out all these stadiums. Second division teams, took them down to Carlisle, played Carlisle's first team, beat them. And all these guys were playing and scoring, and it was just an incredible experience. John Gorman being another one of the guys as well. So that's how I became aware of your father. And I often wonder, and I used to say to my old man, where's the football ability in my family? It certainly wasn't passed down to me. And my dad tells me he almost signed for Alloa. He played at the same time as Alan Hansen. My old man was for Alloa, and there was this chance for him to sign for Alloa, but probably too much nonsense in his head. So there was no ability passed down to me, mate. Was there ability passed through the bloodline to yourself?
There was. All I ever knew was playing football, I was one of the kind of people. My first memories, I'm already kicking the ball kind of thing, and it was quite natural to me, and boys' clubs, and my dad was a big fan of that. Stevie was also a fan. Stevie was playing with St Mirren at the time. His brother Paul was playing at Kilmarnock. Their other brother Michael was playing junior football. I think he started out at Kilmarnock and stuff. My Uncle Eddie, Stevie's dad, was always down watching me when I'm playing boys' clubs, school games and stuff. It's one of my biggest regrets because I threw it away, I did have, and I'm no blowing smoke up my own arse or anything, but I did have the ability to go on and be.
Was it natural?
It came natural to me, and it got to that age when other things turned your head, and maybe a wee bit of kind of ego and stuff, thinking I can live my life that way, and I'll still, because it was quite natural, my talent, but it kind of, I got the consequences of that, and that kind of frittered away.
That's a shame. And again, to be able to look back with that regret as well, it's good that you're able to talk about it, Eddie, because you did come from a footballing family, like you say, your dad, your cousins. I always wanted Stevie Clarke to sign for Celtic. For me, he was a Celtic player, the way he played the game. And there was that chance in the 80s where it looked as though it might happen, eh?
I think Celtic wouldn't pay the £1 million, was it? It was £1 million.
Was that the one where the board says to Davy, hey, you can buy him, but you'll be buying him yourself. You'll need to pay. You'll need to pay for him. And he goes away down to Chelsea and becomes a legend.
Exactly. And look, I'm no Chelsea fan, but Stevie was down there and stuff, so we would go down maybe for certain games and stuff like that. the high regard that people held Stevie with down there, you know, a lot of even the kind of more kind of senior players called him dad and stuff, and Vialli had a lot of respect for him. The Chelsea fans loved him. He was a great servant to Chelsea,
absolutely.
Remember going to Wembley and he was playing with like the League Select against the rest of the world. There was Mark and Maradona and stuff, you know, so he's experienced so much. Then if you think about his coaching career, with Mourinho, take Mourinho into the dressing room and the bag and stuff like that, you know, he's made a great career for himself. He's got a really good football brain, you know, but just maybe Scotland sometimes is a tough task, isn't it? You know, I feel for him, he's not got a striker to pick from. I'm not making excuses for
You're right.
Stevie. If you've not got a striker to choose from, you're really up against
All the
it.
talent's in the same bit of the park.
It is,
you know.
How unlucky is it when you get Robertson and Tierney at the same time?
I know.
Then still try to accommodate them. And I think maybe the ripple effect of that is not working for them.
Despite all that though, taking us to the finals of the tournament twice.
did.
And there's a whole generation of football fans. I was used to it. You'd be the same.
Yeah.
You know, we were at World Cup finals. 1998, I remember watching that one at Tina Park.
Yeah.
Because me and my mate had money on Ronaldo. I think to score in the final, but something happened with Ronaldo, and France were amazing at that time.
France were class.
98 World Cup, and you're thinking, you know, that's what we do. We qualify for the finals, and it didn't happen for, you know, and still not happened in the World Cup.
Yeah.
But we just did not qualify. So regardless of what happens, you know, I think when people look back on Stevie Clarke's reign at Scotland, you know, you look at the honours, you look at what he's done and where he's progressed to. And I think you do look at things like lack of a striker. Centre halves aren't great.
No.
Goalies aren't great. And then you've got that brilliant, you know, talent in the midfield and players going over to Italy and everything else. But no, brilliant that the football lineage came right down to yourself. And I think also, you know, I was down the stairs earlier on and Scott, who runs this place and who's brilliant and makes us the coffee and everything else, does everything. How you got in the day? And I says, you know, he's just an artist. He's an artist. It'll be that music, writing, film, and all that kind of stuff. And there's a point along the line where you talk to people like John Calhoun or Brian McClare, Pat Nevin, I think in the modern day, maybe Michael Stewart, and they're like, you're not allowed to have a brain or creativity because you're a football guy. And they would separate it. Yeah. You couldn't be a footballer and an artist.
I always remember Pat Nevin get such a hard time for that, didn't he? Was slaughtered for having the cheek to be a footballer.
Having talent.
It's insane, and it's quite a poor mentality of society, isn't it, regarding that as well. But that's the people you want to listen to. You know?
Totally. And Pat would have been a teammate of Steery's as well back in the 80s. I know that he divides opinion among Celtic fans now, but what a talented player he was at the time. And I want to talk about some of your art, because when you came through to the toll booth on that particular day, you said it was 4 years ago, it must have been about 4 years ago, you'd written a song. Well, you actually performed that day. We were doing sessions.
That's right.
I think there was 3, maybe 4 songs actually that day.
Yeah, I had a wee set of songs. One of them was the one you're going to speak about, and I'd written, it was very early stages of me writing songs and having the confidence to try and perform them, you know, when you'd shown on for the Hazy Sundays in your show not long ago, and with his support and my other friend Mark Rafferty, who's Jerry Rafferty's nephew, who's very talented, you know, that gave me a bit of security to come in and
brilliant.
kind of sing my songs, you know.
Because it's so intimate as well. We'd never met each other before, and you're standing from here to here, and you're singing, you know, you're baring your soul, aren't you?
Aye.
To strangers. So,
it was a great setup up there as well.
It was really good. You know, the only thing that stopped that was COVID.
Was it?
Yeah, the last time we recorded in there was probably the week or a couple of weeks before the lockdown, you know. And what we used to do is we'd try to get 4 guests in over 4 hours, which was quite tight. You might have seen the people leaving as you were coming in.
Aye, yeah.
I can't remember who was in that day.
It was, do you remember we had Scott and the girl that does the t-shirts and stuff as well?
That's right, yes.
Yeah.
Leanne. No. What's her name? That's terrible.
I know, I forget it. Who's the show for?
LD.
LD, yeah.
LD, Laura.
Aye.
Laura, yep.
So
I do.
She's a great woman.
Yeah, LD are great designs. And we heard your songs then, and going back to the creativity and the artistic nature that you possess, Eddie, I didn't realise that was kind of like an early foray into music for you in terms of writing your own songs.
Totally.
Right. And a big part of that was Bobby Lennox.
Yeah.
And we were trying our best to support the fundraising activities for Bobby. I hosted a gig up at Celtic Park to raise funds for it. And then way down the line, once the guys had done brilliant work to raise the money and the sculpture and everything else, I seen you at the launch, or it was probably maybe a year or two later. Seen you at the launch. It was a great day. Peter Lawler was there, wasn't he?
It was, aye.
Were you not sitting at the top table? in
I
fact?
was, I don't know how I managed.
Were you in the top table with Peter Lawler?
What? No.
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 I was in the cheap seats.
No, it was, you know, and I know kind of lots of the kind of members that were on the board raising that money, you know, Sulkit's kind of Celtic supporters, we all kind of know each other well and always kind of stick by each other and stuff. So anything we could do to help. And the Bobby Lennox song, the chapel down in Sulkit's is called the Star of the Sea.
Right.
Okay, and I just felt that was a really fitting name, the Star of the Sea, because he was the only one that lived near the sea out the Lisbon line, so it kind of made sense, the name of the song. And I was basically just at home, just kind of half playing the guitar and writing lyrics, and just I kind of uploaded a wee video of it onto Facebook. It was just a very rough, and Stuart, who was part of the kind of board to raise funds for the statue, says I love it and stuff. So
Nixon, sure.
I should,
Yeah.
kind of rush through kind of thing, you know, and see when I hear the song, I'm like, I wish I never, you know, he deserves better.
You know what? I was driving through the day, Eddie, and I was thinking about that. We're fellow music fans, and I listen to music every single day in life. If I meet somebody who's not into music, I'm thinking, is there something wrong with you? No, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And sometimes I listen to like tunes and I think, oh, they should re-record that.
Aye.
That would sound better. And I remember Bobby Gillespie was asked a question about that, you know, if something's imperfect. And I don't know if there was maybe a band that was re-recording an album or something around about that time. I know you two have done quite a bit of that in recent times. And Bobby says, no, if it's imperfect, that's the way it's meant to be.
Yeah.
So you capture the moment and it's there and it's a time capsule. You can play it differently live in the future or whatever, but just leave it as it is.
No, I do believe in that, because you would be forever revisiting it, wouldn't you?
Aye.
And certainly some of the kind of original stuff I've heard from bands that I like and stuff, I like hearing that first version or the raw version of it and stuff. So I'm a big believer in that. But it's, as we were speaking about, you know, kind of John Clarke kind of passing and stuff like that, you know, I would really like to do a kind of improved version of that for Bobby. Do you know what I mean? It was a kind of rush thing, because that event was on, like, right, we need to get what we've got recorded and stuff, and you develop as an artist over the years, you know, you learn more what works, what sounds better and stuff, and I'm kind of recording a lot of my old kind of songs that I've written just now with the kind of project we're going to go and speak about and stuff, with a kind of soundtrack and stuff like that, you know, so I'm back in the studio doing things, because I stopped doing kind of music for a while. I still write, but my focus has been on my kind of more recent projects. I'm
not surprised. You must, honestly, the amount of things that you do.
Yeah.
We'll talk about, you know, memoirs, podcasting, filmmaking, music, right? You're involved in a lot of things, but to be able to merge them together like that and actually work on a soundtrack for the film, that, for me, I think that's a coming together of all your talents.
I think the songs, I was speaking about this before on a podcast I was on, it was about music and stuff like that. When I write songs, they are a film to me. I see songs, right, you know? So I always write my songs, usually about situations I've experienced, or maybe other people's experience and stuff. So when I write songs, half the project I'm doing now, the filming and stuff, the songs relate to anyway. So it's been quite easy to marry them up with what they are, you know, and it just seems to be the way how my creative brain works, where a song is a film in my head, you know. So and I know other people who have the same kind of thought processes when they're being creative, and it's amazing to me, and when you're rhyming off the stuff that I'm doing there, you know, is that me? You know, sometimes it's like that because you start out and you find an interest. Certainly writing was mine, whether it's poetry, whether it's songs, whether it's short stories, memoirs and stuff like that. It helps me. It helps me. That's how I express myself as well in that, you know, and I don't know if everybody knows that that is me I'm speaking about, or I'm just speaking about some just an imaginary situation, you know, but a lot of it is coming from within me.
Aye, the experiences that you've had.
Yeah.
And the formulation of them, we're going to be talking about the film because all the things you're involved in, I've got an interest in them, you know, so Celtic, music, writing, podcasting, film, I love it all. And it's great to be able to tap into every single part of that when talking to you. Hazy Sundays, I'm jumping back and forward a wee bit here, but the Hazy Sundays, they were in here fairly recently because they were having this drive to obviously release their album. And in research for that, I'm looking at their old videos. You're also an actor because I've seen you in the videos as well, which I just thought to myself, that's tough. That's a tough gig, right? So what's your acting? Was that just you saying, right, I'm your mate and I'm going to help you out here, or have you done any acting?
No, that was totally I'm your mate and I'm helping you out here. But we had this kind of theme, like what the song was about. It was for the track Off the Cuff, and what a great tune, what a great song it is. You know, they're a great band with that kind of punky, kind of indie sound, which I really like. But Sean for the Hazy Sundays just says this is what the song's about, so we just tried to kind of improvise, and that's what we came up with on the day. So I surprised myself with that one, but it's not something that I do naturally. It's not something I enjoy, but I like the finished product of ideas of a collective together trying to create stuff out of nothing.
I know you've got that blank canvas, you create the idea, and to see it come to fruition. I don't think I'd be as brave as you were to be in front of the camera. We did the single for The Glory in a Dream. And I was quite happy behind the camera with my ideas, get other people to do it. So fair play to you. I'm going to jump back to Bobby Lennox for a moment. The statue this week with the passing of John, I suggested on a Celtic State of Mind they should all have statues. Now, you know, some people might think that the Celtic Way is the place for them. Well, if that's the case, do another Bobby Lennox one. But when you look at the one in Songcourts, and I think back to my upbringing and where, you know, my formative years were spent, a statue like that shows you that you can achieve something. And you could be fair, maybe a underprivileged kind of environment or even background, but that for me is like a shining beacon that if you work hard at something, you might achieve. So did you get that sense with the Bobby Lennox statue?
Definitely. And I need to say as well, because Saltcoats is a very kind of split town, you know, but it's one of the areas down there where it's got maybe 50-50, kind of Celtic, kind of Rangers, kind of rivalry, but also the kind of respect that's been shown as well, you know, and I think that was a massive thing that came out of the Bobby Lennox thing. So many people respect Bobby down in Saltcoats. He ran Bobby's bar right next to the statue for a lot of years as well. Celtic buses ran for Bobby's bar and stuff, but he's just a really well-respected man down there. But certainly the message that comes out of that is that as well. I see just at the border, down the Saltcoats shorefront, they've put up a sign, Our Billy, so it's, what do you call him, Billy, player in Napoli.
Oh, Billy Gilmour.
Billy Gilmour's sign up there now. You know, and he's been on to achieve, I mean, he's playing with Napoli, with Serie A titles, but Bobby's stands out itself, doesn't it? You know, so no, it was definitely, it's encouraging, isn't it? You know, there's so many kind of negative stories come out of places like Saltcoats, you know, kind of generational unemployment, massive substance use, crime, poverty, and certainly Bobby has been one of the people that's kind of carried the town as well, you know, and the turnout for it in that day as well. The Saltcoats looked like a different, didn't look like Saltcoats, you know, it looked very, very, you know, nice and promising, and, you know, hope come out of that day, you know, it felt totally surreal that day. in an area that I've stood many times, you know, then to go out that day in the crowd and the people that was there, it was just, aye. It certainly gives people like myself, you know, it's like, try and achieve what you can. Like you're saying there, you'd stand behind the camera. I'm like, why not? Why not go in front of the camera? Why not try and make a film? Why not write a song and then put it out there, you know? As much as a lot of me's like, oh, I don't want to do this. You know, I need to push through that stuff now. For me, you know, it's not about the film to be seen by 10 million people. It's a film that, from my experience down in Saltcoats, I want people down in Saltcoats to enjoy and say, oh, there's that place and that's our town and stuff like that, you know? And it's just, I wasted too many years in my life, you know, not being productive, not being creative, and now I just want to kind of, you know, see what I'm capable of, and that's with other people round about me who are supportive and creative themselves.
It's a great ambition to have, a great level of ambition. What you were talking about there about on that day, it was the energy, wasn't it? It was the great positive energy, and if a statue can create that in a wee mining village like back home in Fife, then great. And I think it's something to aspire to, because my background is in areas that had their heart tore out of them through Thatcherism with regards to the industry disappearing, and a lot of other areas in Scotland are the same. So if you can have something to aspire to, and I'll tell you what, the career Bobby Lennox had and the man that he is, it's definitely something to aspire to. And I've got to throw this in before we move on to talking about the film. Not only did you write a song about Bobby, you wrote a song about a Celtic state of mind, and it was to the tune of Elephant Stone.
It was.
My favourite band of all time, the Stone Roses. And I remember you saying that to me, and I just thought, wow, I love this. And you just done that off your own back. I never asked you to do it or anything.
No, it was a kind of sad ending to that story. That it wasn't, you know, it was in the season we were going for 10 in a row, and a lot of the kind of focus as well was on winning the 10, and I was waiting to win the league that year, you know, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, writing that stuff comes very naturally to me. I'm not saying I'm some super kind of gifted person, but be able to sit down and write that. I got up most mornings and write a song or a poem or something. Sometimes I don't even put it anywhere. It's like that kind of creative outlet, you know. But certainly the lyrics in that one, you know, fitting in the name of CELTIC State of Mind and stuff into it. Just a shame that we never managed to do what we wanted to do. I can't listen to it now.
I know. It was a dark time. It was a dark time. You know, if we talk about, you know, growing up in an area that is downtrodden, where there isn't a great deal of hope, I often go back to some of the areas that I was brought up in, and you see victims of that.
Totally.
You absolutely see victims of the environment that's been created by people who are meant to be governing us, and they leave you with no hope. And not everybody's got the talent, the ambition, the headspace to be able to escape from it. But that has actually driven you in your artistic, creative endeavours. And I want to talk about your film, because that is a huge ambition, which I think is brilliant. It should be celebrated.
Thank you.
But I've watched your progress on Facebook mainly, and we're at a stage now where we need people's help. So give us a background of the movie first of all.
Yeah. So I had written kind of short stories. In the start, I was writing kind of short stories about myself. I'm a person in recovery from addiction. I managed to get 11 years clean last week. You know, so living clean is quite a normal way of life for me now. You know, I've managed to make that kind of adjustment, get into life, take responsibility, wife, job, all that kind of stuff, you know. We're always interested in people's issues, aren't we, or the problem and stuff like that, and I'm guilty of that as well, kind of stuff like that. So a few years back I was writing a wee bit about my kind of experiences when I was in addiction, because as much as addiction is sad and stuff, there's some mad stuff happens in it, there's mad people in it, sometimes it's funny as well, you know, as much as it's desperate. And you meet characters that you wouldn't meet in another walk of life. So I started writing a wee bit about myself, and I was posting it up online and stuff. And I was speaking about an area I ended up in the end of my addiction, where it was one of the areas they would put everybody who had maybe mental health problems, addiction problems, stuff. It was a terrible quality of life, terrible, you know, and that kind of scheme became your world. You know, you weren't going out for anything, probably ashamed of the way I appeared, unemployable, you know, broken a lot of relationships and bridges and stuff. So I was speaking about the desperation, how I felt in that, and how lonely it was, and how kind of limited my life was. And I remember it was my auntie that commented under it, and she says, "That's not what that area's like. I grew up there," and stuff like that. And I'm glad she did write that, because that was just my perception for the eyes that I was in at that time. And it gave me a real kind of kickstart, and I says, I'm not wanting to put out everything about my life and stuff like that. And there's other people who may be involved in that who don't want me writing about, oh, no, that would name MD. But what she did was give me an idea to create characters.
Yeah.
And that's what I've done for the short film. And what that did was give me the freedom. And I couldn't stop writing, Paul. You know, see, when I got that, I could not stop writing. So now I'm not only speaking about my kind of limited experiences, I'm writing about experiences I've seen other people have, and bring that into that, because it's a character now, and it gives me the freedom to exaggerate situations, you know, to make situations funnier and stuff like that. And I couldn't stop writing, you know, and it's something that happens to me sometimes. I'll get an idea and I can't stop. It's like something goes through you, and you get it down. So this short chapter was called The Back Data, and that's what we were going to do a film. So I kind of wrote this chapter, The Back Data. It's quite funny, and I put that up and it gets such an amazing response. You know, everybody down for Saltcoats in the 3 towns, you know, oh, I know that area, that's happened to me, I've been there and stuff. So it's about 2 characters who are stuck in addiction down in Saltcoats. It's 1997, the rave scene's just starting to kind of die out at that stage, but also heroin is now kind of became more popular, you know. But somebody was saying, is it like transport? No, it's not. It's nothing like transport, and it's not about the drug use. It's not about that. I would say it's more, if anything, the Grant and Star cause, kind of that kind of humour in it, and quite kind of risky. But also there's a lot of emphasis on the ripple effect that addiction has in communities, family members, and also the underlying issues of addiction. There's a reason these people live that way. Yeah. There's a reason why they want to destroy themselves, you know, because things have happened previously. So as much as it's about these 2 characters, it's about the main character, Guido. He's a bit of a creative person. He writes poems, but he's embarrassed to share them. He only shares them with his close friend in case people slag him and stuff. But he's got a desire to get out of this town, out of this situation we were speaking about earlier. Some people don't get out, do they? But I want once we get it completed, I want the viewer to really look behind the scenes of what is going on. And I only know that all that stuff in hindsight now, you know, been in recovery for that amount of time, working on myself, looking at my past. I work in a rehab. I see people come in with all get issues, you know. It's not the drug use or the alcohol use, you know. That's their solution to the problems, you know. And it's try to educate as well about people it's easy for us to judge the addict or the alcoholic in society, isn't it? It's easy, you know, because they look worse than us, they behave worse than us, but we've got all our own stuff going on, you know. But if we're deflecting onto them, because that's, at least I'm not like that, you know, and what we need to do is look at ourselves, because I believe everybody's an addict in some way, you know.
And you know, the big thing, you're talking there about the judgmental aspect of it. I remember I had a job in Edinburgh where I would need to at night time walk for my commute right along George Street towards the bus station.
Yeah.
And I remember, you know, just in my mind thinking to myself, how many people am I going to walk past, right, every day, to and from my work, who are sitting on a street on a cold paving stone, and the amount of people that walk past them. Right now, I know that there's a lot of people do these experiments and stuff on social media now to try and highlight it. But it occurred to me back then, and I thought to myself, now, unfortunately, I can't give everybody something because I would have nothing. Right, and then you feel a bit guilty about that as well. So every day I would try and speak to at least one person. Right, because it was a respect thing as well. I have no idea what led to this moment, and the fact that you're sitting there and I'm standing here, and even just sitting and chatting to them. You know,
I think what you're saying there about chatting to them, I think that really helps, you know, and it's like they're not just invisible. You know, I was over at the Morrisons across the road there, and again got a coffee, and I walked in and there was a girl sitting begging right outside the door, and she was crying, and I asked her if she was okay and stuff, and she was saying she was living in a tent, you know, and you're just like, but it's like not kind of, if it's a girl crying any other walk of life,
I know.
everybody's round about them, aren't they, asking if they're okay? But because we see that, it's probably a drug addict, probably, you know, we judge them, so I go over and ask if she's okay. I'll not say what I gave her then, but I gave her money as well, do you know what I mean? It's like, you're living in a tent.
in this day and age,
You know, there's no need for that. That doesn't need to be the case, you know, and and we have to look back. I could guess what the backstory is there with something like that, but yet we don't seem to have the services or the support available to help these people.
See now where you're actually in a position where you're working with people who are in addiction, and you're trying to help them, right, come out of that. It must be massively satisfying for you.
It is, but it also hurts as well, you know, because not everybody makes it into recovery, you know, and some people's pain's just too much for them, you know, and there's so much, the rise in mental health issues now as well. So you take away the drinking, the drugs, and the mental health is there. People with serious trauma. It's like I was saying, it takes a village, doesn't it, to help. And just sometimes you feel as if there's not enough hands to help the amount of people that you're seeing now. But yeah, they've got the other side of the coin as well, you know, and I've got the kind of luxury in my role of being a manager in the aftercare department, so we support the clients once they leave, and I watch people absolutely change everything about their life. Their families come back into their life, then they come back for their yearly reunion and stuff, and their life is totally transformed. So I need to tune into that part of it, you know, that we're doing what we can, but we've not got all the answers to everybody's problems.
No, but you are given the opportunity, you know, whereas before it might just feel like a dead end that they're in. I used to read some of your, you know, your writing on Facebook, and it was hard hitting. It was really hard hitting, but very, very enjoyable. And it's interesting how that has developed into this film now. But even a production like today, I understand on a very, very small scale how difficult it is to organise the financial element of it, the whole thing. So to actually make a short or a documentary or a film, it's huge, isn't it, Eddie? It's massive.
Definitely. Last week I didn't think I was going to make it, and that's the truth, you know. Early on when I applied for funding, I had been offered a conditional offer of the funding for the film, but due to circumstances I can't speak about, but out with anybody's control, you know, there was a spate of drug overdoses and stuff, and in my storyline there's overdose, and the funders felt that it wouldn't be right and kind of pulled it back. So there was that kind of massive setback early on where I had everything planned. So at the moment we've just a couple of weeks ago set up a crowdfunder, and kind of what we're doing is money kind of comes in, we get X amount of money in, then we're planning a couple of days filming, and that's the way we're working just now, and it's not ideal. It's not ideal, you know, kind of working like that, but that's the way it is just now. So last week, and I work full time, I've got got Recovery Connects coming up. I've got a wife and family at home and stuff who, you know, sometimes I'm not there. I'm not there, you know, they're very patient with me, knowing that I'm following a kind of dream, and yeah, and just sometimes the pressure of that can get an awful lot. You're arranging a lot of people, as you know, chasing up people, getting messaged all the time, make sure you've got lighting, make sure you've got the sound guy there, make sure the cameraman's there, make sure you get props, you know, it's a lot of work, but I believe in the project, and the reason that I believe in the project is the support that the community and people's gave us, and the words of encouragement I get. I know you probably can't see it when the crowdfunder, when you see it, but the private messages I get for people who donate saying, Eddie, I believe in you and I love your idea. Some of the cinematographer who's filming it, we're down in Soul Coach, we know we're in public spaces filming, and every 2 minutes, hi Eddie, you know, you're in the middle of filming, they don't care, you know, they're straight over, and he's like, you just know everybody, and it kind of felt that way, but it's all people who are really supportive, and they're coming over to show support and stuff, because it's never happened down in Saltcoats. There isn't a film that's been done in Saltcoats.
See, the interesting thing about that, you're capturing a moment as well in that area. I used to love the films like Just a Boys Game.
I love them.
Just Another Saturday.
It's all that stuff.
You know, and it's the gritty environment.
Yeah.
And you look back on it now, Eddie, and it's like, I'd love to go and visit some of these parts.
Yeah.
They were Peter McDougall films, weren't they?
Yeah.
Unbelievable films.
That I would say, if somebody was to ask me what's your favourite type of film, it's that. I absolutely love that. I can watch it over and over. I'm not into your science fiction. I'm not into any kind of, you know, any kind of fancy kind of AI graphics or anything like that. It's those old school Glasgow films. And as I said, I think the Acid House for Irving Wells really kind of opened my eyes regarding I wanted to do that. You know, that gave me, there was something about those short films and that, you know, the Grant and Star Cause just still blows me away, the story.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Bob Coyle. But it's just that kind of imagination kind of stuff, but put into absolutely normal life that we see in Scotland, isn't it? There's something very humorous about it, but also really kind of dark as well. But a lot of the people involved, acting, is people with lived experience, addiction, mental health issues, and that's key to what the project's trying to do. This is giving a platform to people who, myself included, who you can't just walk into these kind of things. And I'm a great believer, if you want to do something, go out and put the action in yourself and try your best. As I said, we're not looking here to make money off it. We're not looking for it to be shown at Cannes or anything, but it's a project I want us all to be proud of, and the community who support us to be proud of it. And it'll be it's nothing better than having a film, is it? You know, have a film, it's there forevermore. It's
a document, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a document.
I feel like that when I wrote a book, you know, it's like that book will outlast me. There'll be copies of that book kicking about when I'm gone.
Exactly.
And that was a great feeling. And it's the same with your writing, your music, and now your film. We're obviously going to be putting the link underneath the video for anyone who wants to come in and help and put a donation in. And then we'll continually follow the project and put that out in the socials as well. In terms of film, you're talking there about Grant Star Cause. A Celtic State of Mind has done some incredible stuff for me. Things that they put you in places. It's put me in places where it's surreal. Like, you know, sitting at a game watching Celtic playing Lazio next to Andrew Innes, one of my favourite bands of all time, and just like meeting people and talking to them, and you know, just at the weekend there, being in Belfast with Chris Sutton and getting a text message from my brother, and I was like, I'm just having a pizza with Chris, you know what I mean? It's just bizarre, surreal, but at no point ever taken for granted. And one of the things talking about the Grant and Star Cause is Simon Weir, Panto, who actually has a stall here at the bar. It's just across the road.
I was checking, I wasn't sure it was open because he's got the t-shirt there, the Grant and Star Cause, when I'm wanting to buy it.
Oh, it's class, the purple one.
I know.
And to meet him and say, you know, me and my mates, we were of that era where obviously you had train spotting. Everybody went to watch. I mean, I went to the pictures to watch train spotting.
Yeah.
And then the Acid House was a wee bit more cult. It's a culty one, right? And you're talking the soft touch and obviously, you know, with you and Bremner being in the collection of films and all that as well, these guys began to be associated with Irvin Welsh. And through that, I spoke to Simon, and obviously Irvin plays a wee cameo in it as well. Right. And it is dark and it's phenomenal, but then Simon ends up being on a Celtic State of Mind, and he's a pal of mine, and that's all due to Acsom. It's incredible. The fact that I'm sitting talking to you is down to Acsom. And it was weird how when I first met you, I was like, I've already spoken to your dad, you know, and then the Hazy Sundays come in, so it's all linked, but it's all positive, and it's great energy as well. Before we get on to more of the film, you just mentioned a festival. Now, again, like, I can't even imagine. I put on maybe events or gigs, but to put on a festival, that's huge. That is massive. Talk to us a wee bit about that.
So myself, Sean for the Hazy Sundays, and my other friend Derek, big music fans. We're all in recovery. They're quite open about that, so I can mention that. And we'd always be going to gigs and stuff, but there's a stage in recovery in the early days where you have to be very cautious, because you've always went to these events as well. Same with me going to Celtic games in early recovery as well, and I had to be very cautious. I related everything to do with going to a Celtic game, with drinking or using substances or whatever, you know. So certainly music wise, a lot of people, everybody loves music, don't they, you know, and certainly in recovery in the early stages, but a lot of people are blocked off for going to kind of gigs and stuff because of the risks there, you know. So we got together and we come up with the idea that we would try and run an event that was alcohol free, but we didn't just want that to be for people in recovery, because sometimes that can be limiting, you know, and it feels as if you're separate from society. What we wanted to do was put on a free event. It's important that it was free as well. Put on a free event, but for anyone to come along to who would, you hear it as you get older, don't you? I get like that when I'm older, not just because I'm in recovery. I'm like, he's annoying, that guy next to me is really annoying me, or he's behind you just talking non-stop, you know that way. And it's just another platform for people to come along, enjoy good, and it's important we get good quality acts as well, not just not offense them, but just people in recovery maybe playing a guitar and stuff. You know what I mean by that? So I want it to look like it as a proper event. And I think our first event was 2019. I think this is our 2018. This is our 7th year, I think. Mind you, 1 year get kind of rained off and stuff like that. And I think we had 450, 500 people through the door in the first year. Last year we had almost 2,500 people at it. So we are really, you know, kind of proud about what we've achieved. And over the last couple of years, I know it's a bit of name dropping, but a friend of mine's friends with Alan McGee, and we'd always known that. I don't like being that person. Can you give us Alan's number and stuff? But we knew we had to improve the quality of the bands if we wanted to develop. And I phoned my mate and he says, no problem, I've spoke with Alan, you have to give my phone just now. And I was like, what? So it was sitting on the edge of your bed 2 minutes before thinking, well, I phone my mate and ask him, and then next thing you're on the phone to Alan McGee, and he was so nice to, you know, and it was quite funny. We've spoke about it in a podcast before and stuff. But he's a grumpy old man as well at times, you know. So, but other times he'd be like, Eddie, how you doing? Like, not long ago when Brian Jonestown Massacre were playing over there, he manages them and he just phones us, Eddie, bring the boys along, get tickets here for you. Brought it along there. So the stuff you're talking about over there with Saturn and stuff like that, it's surreal, isn't it? It's, but me and the guys just laugh about it. And last year, Alan turned up at our event and we got him to do a wee DJ set, but he was very supportive of us, you know. He's like, he said, I thought it was going to be on his arse, but it's actually all right, you know. So that's as much a compliment you'll get out of Alan McGee. But he gives us advice. We run bands past him. He puts us in touch with managers of bands. helped us get Baby Shambles, it helped us get John Power. You know, it's like we need to be really grateful to him because he's really kind of took us up.
That's incredible, eh?
You know.
That is incredible. See what you said there where you just laugh at? That's what I do. I never ever take anything granted.
Yeah.
I just think, this is mad.
Yeah.
This is meant, you know, when you're from here to you, away from a player that you've paid to watch
Yeah, it's
in an arena. And, you know, the likes of Sutton and John Huston, big Stratton guys that all of a sudden you're sitting having a pizza with them, just having a wee chat. And a lot of the time, no speaking about football, no speaking about Celtic, just talk about life. And
That's a good bit about
I know.
that.
It is. It really
You
is.
could probably tell them more about their
so-
career because you watched them every game, but it's like getting to know these people, isn't it? And aye, it is.
I didn't realise Alan McGee managed the Brian Jonestown massacre.
Aye.
You know, I only became aware of them through Dig, the documentary.
Yeah, yeah.
That was just
That's some
my brother.
documentary,
That's
that's
brilliant.
it.
And I'm watching it going, this can't be real. This is a setup.
Yeah.
This Anton Newcombe can't be a real person.
I know.
But then he's a genius.
Yeah.
He's an absolute genius. Anybody out there who's no listened to it,
Yeah,
go and check
go
it
and
out.
listen to him. Amazing, and watch Dig on YouTube because you'll learn a lot about when they played. He was in the Barrowlands when they played it. Him and one of the other kind of band members don't get on, so they're at opposite ends of the stage. It's just classic, isn't it? It's all that side that I really enjoy knowing about and listening to as well. Yeah, and a few years ago we had Bez as well at one event. There's been better quality music acts at it, but there's not been a better character at it than Bez. It was absolutely, the place went wild for him, you know, and it was him and his son Arlo in the decks, and Bez just kind of dancing about, but amazing. And we've put in a lot of work to get there, but we're into a wee system now, you know, kind of a system. We pay in-house entertainment over at Queen's Park for the event. They do security, they do food, and all that kind of side of it. We arrange the acts, and we also kind of build up the kind of buzz for it. And it's important we keep the recovery part of it as well, as much as a lot of the general public are coming in now. It's important to keep the recovery part of it as well, because we want people in recovery to be there as well, and they turn up, and normally buses come from Aberdeen.
That's amazing, mate.
It is, isn't it?
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's not a flash in the pan, you've done it for 7 years.
Yeah.
And long may that continue. Eddie, I could talk to you all day. There's so much inspirational work that you're doing. So congratulations and well done on that. And once this comes to fruition, will you come back and speak to us again?
Definitely.
For your third appearance. We're like a treble. We're Celtic fans.
Aye.
Thanks for joining us on A Celtic State of Mind, mate.
Thanks a lot, Bob. Good to see you. Thank you.
Thanks once again for joining us on A Celtic State of Mind. Join us next Friday at 6 o'clock for This is Acsom.